Good afternoon, my friends. This is a fun episode, and it's called Are You Autistic or Just an Asshole? And me personally, I'm actually autistic, and it's something that I was diagnosed with, 2016. And it's one of those things where if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't. So I asked one of the large language models to come up with 100 examples of autistic traits that could be considered being rude or a jerk or something like that. And, the difference between someone that's autistic and someone that's an actual asshole is that an autistic person doesn't mean to be rude, doesn't mean to hurt your feelings, doesn't mean to insult you. They actually genuinely are just trying to get along, trying to understand what's going on and participate, but they get it wrong. Whereas an asshole intentionally does these things and could appear to be autism, could appear to be assholism. It's hard to tell. But let's take a look at these 100 examples of autistic traits, and I'll try to give you some examples from my life that kind of demonstrate it. All right, blunt honesty, misunderstood as rude or insensitive, saying exactly what you think without filtering for social niceties, difficulties with small talk, misunderstood as aloof, uninterested or arrogant, struggling to engage in casual topic hopping conversations. Sure, that's me, 100%. I kind of give you an example of this one. When I was young, I must have been in like 8th grade. So I don't know however old you are when you're in 8th grade. That summer, between 8th and 9th grade, we went away on vacation to St. Thomas. And it was me, my mom, and my dad, and my dad's brother, Gregory, and his wife, Meryl. And Greg had been in a car accident, and he had some head trauma, so he wasn't the most pleasant of people to be around. His personality completely changed after the motorcycle accident, and he complained about everything. He's the kind of person that would win $1 million and complain that the check was blue instead of black. It was just like he was a real piece of work. So I'm young, 8th grade, however old that is, maybe 13 or 14, I'm not quite sure, 12, 13, and I go to my Uncle Greg. I say, Uncle Greg, I want to have a good vacation. So I don't want to hear you complaining and whining about everything, okay? Because you always complain about stuff, and we want to have a good time. So can you not do this vacation, please? And he was like so taken aback and so shocked, and my parents were kind of shocked as well. But I'll tell you, we had the best vacation that I'd ever had with a family member of my life. He was on his best behavior, and I didn't mean to be rude. I was just a kid being honest, It was pretty funny. So lack of eye contact, sometimes it's just really hard looking in somebody's eye. You feel a lot of the energy, you feel a lot of the thoughts that they have, and you kind of just see right into their soul, and you feel them peering into yours as well. So it can be painful making prolonged eye contact. So yeah, I totally understand that. The next one is monopolizing conversations. Sure. It's like when you've got something that you're super interested in, like if I start talking about like ESP or something like that I'm super interested in, I zone out and I get into the zone and I kind of forget about time and I just go all in on it because I'm super interested in it, and I've got all of this knowledge that's always just kind of simmering in my head about it. And it's good for a podcast, but it's bad in the work environment, especially when you're not able to, number 7, read nonverbal cues. So it's hard to tell when people really aren't interested because a lot of times, we'll just ask a question like, oh, I'm sorry, was I bothering you? And they'll say no, but they meant to say yes, but they don't say yes because polite society isn't honest about things. So it's always crazy with stuff like that. Interrupting, yep. Jumping in when you have something to add. It's hard to get into a conversation, and a lot of times we'll like hold something in our head and wait for an opportunity in a conversation to share that thing. But, we want to talk about gold coins and everyone's already moved on to like talking about Ferraris. And I'm like, oh yeah, that gold coin things from like 3 minutes ago. Da, da, da. And it's just always meow, 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 Taking things literally. Absolutely. And, in a work environment, if you take things literally or you ask too many questions, people will think that you're being difficult or being argumentative. But really, you're just trying to understand what the hell is going on. Really, it's pretty crazy. Disliking unexpected change. Yeah, this is a huge one, right? We love consistency. We love repeatability. And when something pops off and is completely changed out of nowhere, man, it really sets us off, and it takes us a little while to recuperate and to gain that sort of momentum on the thing, because it takes us a little while to get going on stuff. Sensory and sensitivity overload. Oh yeah. Loud sounds, too bright lights, really strong smells, specific smells. All of these things can really overwhelm someone that on the spectrum and cause them to freak out, maybe have a tantrum. And a normal person would just be able to sit there and take it, but that person really needs to leave. They really need to get out of there, and maybe people aren't understanding that, so they start to escalate. And when they escalate, like, that's genuine, and it's not like you can just tell them to stop and they're going to de-escalate. That's not how that shit works. They need to get the hell out of there, The next one is needing process time before responding. That can easily be misunderstood as being slow or dense or being difficult. It could be seen as being controlling, and that's not it at all. I've had a lot of my traits kind of turned on me and weaponized against me. And it's just unfortunate. I guess I've been around really shitty people for a lot of my life. So that's kind of what's happened. But yeah, I guess it seems like sometimes, like when I'm asking too many clarifying questions, it talks about need for routine and predictability. This goes back to the spontaneity. Difficulty with figurative language and sarcasm. Yeah. It's hard to process that stuff, and we take it personally. Or when I was a kid, I was into this song by Casey and the Sunshine Band called Shake Your Booty, and I was so naive. I thought they were talking about boots. I was like 4 or 5 when it came out, So I'm like, oh my God, I love the song. And there I am, like, I stick my foot up because I think it's about a booty, and I start shaking my booty. Shake, 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 shake your booty. That's, so funny. My parents just laughed, just totally laughed. Leaving social situations abruptly. I used to call this Costcoing the cart. I used to go to Costco with this one partner, and we would go when it was convenient, not when it made the most sense to go. And we'd get there, and if the line was too long or if it was too crowded, it was long before I had my autism diagnosis, I would just get overwhelmed, and it would be too much, and we just need to leave the cart and walk out. And it would be if the line was too long, if there are too many people. If we get in there and it's just like too much chaos and too much energy, I would get overstimulated, and I didn't know how to back it down. So we would just, bounce. Yeah. No one's ever really accused me of being unemotional. I am not likely to react to the things that you may expect a normal person to react to. I choose what I allow myself to get emotional about now that I understand myself, because things could go crooked very quickly, and I really tend to try to modulate and manage that as best I can. Yeah, I am actually the difficulty identifying and describing their own emotions. I'm the exact opposite of this. I guess because I was raised by an excellent mother who told me to talk about everything and to share my feelings with words, I learned how to connect to my emotions. And, understanding the difference between fear and anxiety, or apprehension and anger, there's so many different emotions. And sometimes as an autistic person, they are really, really, really strong. And they just come on like a tidal wave, almost like I can only explain it as like a hot rush, like where your whole body gets hot and you start to sweat. Like sometimes that happens when you're autistic and you've got an emotional thing. Really strong emotions to perceived injustice and unfairness. Yeah, man. Yeah. And that's really because we find it so hard dealing with all of the unwritten rules of society and all the undercurrents of stuff that when we got a rule and we got like a process, God damn it, we love that shit, because rinse and repeat, what the expectations are. You don't have to guess. There's no ambiguity. So when those are broken and something negative happens to somebody, we really feel that strongly, because we definitely put a lot of value on the rigor of rules, just because it helps to navigate the world. Like, it's hard reading people, all that kind of stuff. These stimming and self-stimming behaviors. Yeah, people think you're fidgety or distracted. I used to have a leg that I would bounce all the time. Now that I'm in my 50s, all of this isn't as intense, but I'm also not under the same sort of pressures that I was back when I was either in school full time and I had to put on a mask for 10 or 12 hours a day. I didn't even know what a mask was. I just knew that I had to figure out how to put something together so that people didn't hate me. And I did my best. We got difficulty with transitions, preferring solitude, alone time, difficulty initiating or ending conversations. Goes into the transitions that has to do with liking our patterns and liking things to be repeatable. We're not resistant to change. We need to understand what the change is. We need to understand why. We need to understand the methodology behind it so that we can integrate it into our routines, because we can't just do something. It needs to be authentic. It needs to come from a place of genuinely wanting to do it. Like, we can't just force ourselves to do things that we don't want to do. It's like, if you don't want the dog to walk, you can't make the dog walk. That's a great example of an autistic person. We're more like cats, really. We're more like cats than dogs. And I think that bothers some people, because most people are like dogs. They want to behave. They want to please you. When you're autistic, you're just trying to figure out how to get by, because the world was not really made for you. It really wasn't. Talking too loudly or softly. Some people, when they're autistic, they just, again, this goes into the favorite topic and getting lost in the sauce and lost in the zone. Over-explaining, under-explaining, difficulty with white lies and social niceties. Yeah, I can't do the white lies. You see here the laugh talk. Yeah, I can't do the white lies, the social niceties. I can't do them. They don't feel real, and I don't live in that world, because it's a fake place to be, and I'm not fake. I'm genuine. We've got difficulty with executive functions. Well, I'm pretty good at planning, but I don't mind a mess. It's organized chaos. I understand where everything is. Meltdowns, shutdowns, difficulty with coordination and motor planning. I'm the opposite. I'm like a ninja with shit. I can like catch stuff out of the air, flies or whatnot. Bing, things just fall in the right place. I'm really good with tools. Bored or disinterested. It's like resting autistic face. It's like you're so focused on like listening or seeing things that you forget what this thing is doing over here. And sometimes you're like, it just does its own thing, and you've got no control over it. It's like, what's the face doing again? What's going on with the face? Why is it doing that? You just can't help it. Talked about the repeatability and the sameness. I don't mind being touched or hugged if it's somebody that I love, but not random shit. I talked about being overwhelmed. Needing clear and explicit language. Words are so important. One of the things that I do, and it's been weaponized against me, I've been accused of mansplaining when that is the last thing that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to understand. So somebody will say something to me, and they'll say, I don't know, the door is open because I want to cool off the car. So I'm like, oh, okay. Looks like you left the door open because it was too hot in there, huh? And I'm just making sure that I'm on the same page and that I understood you or heard you correctly, because sometimes I don't hear correctly. I've heard the wrong thing before, or somebody else has heard the wrong thing, and it's comical when it's wrong. But that's why I kind of focus on specific words and stuff. And again, talking about focusing on details over the big picture, I can do the big picture. I can also zoom in and do the little detail. Group conversation, I've been thrust into a lot of positions where I needed to lead the conversations. So I've gotten good at it simply out of necessity. Taking figures of speech literally, disliking being rushed. Yeah, don't rush me. Appearing resistant to compromise. Me personally, I'm not resistant to compromise, but don't just assume that I'm going to completely acquiesce. We're going to genuinely need to compromise. We're both going to need to come to the middle and figure out, where can we both kind of give and take a little bit to get to where we need to be. Most people confuse compromise with acquiescing, and those are two very different words. And I've been a scrum master who's like been the guy that's making sure things happen properly. Definitely been helping out with that stuff. Understanding abstract concepts. I'm an artist, so I'm pretty good with that. I talked about understanding why. Filtering thoughts before speaking. And sometimes we loop, we get stuck. Disliking hypocrisy goes back to the injustice thing. But for whatever reason, if I understand the why of something, I can motivate myself to do it. If I don't have a why, I can't. And that's something I've figured out about myself, and I can trick myself a lot of the time, but sometimes I just can't. I'll give you an example. When I was working full-time in New York City at a lot of different advertising agencies, I had an opportunity to be the head of production on the Microsoft account for the Xbox. And at the time and since and whatever, like, I've tried using the Xbox. I don't like that thing. I don't connect to it. I'm like a PlayStation guy or even like a Nintendo guy, but really like a PS3, PS4 kind of guy. And that's the box that I connect with. I've tried connecting with the Xbox. I just don't. So I, out of all good faith in my heart, can't spend the majority of my time supporting and promoting a product that not only do I not like, I actively dislike and I prefer a different product over. So the only product I would do that for would have been if it was for the Sony account. But Sony has their own in-house Marcom, marketing and communications, that does the majority of their own work. The same thing that Apple does. So, I didn't end up working at Sony, but I turned the job down at Microsoft. And man, that company was so pissed. They just walked me out of there and they put a black mark on my resume, and I'm never going to work for them again because I turned them down because I didn't like the job. But, this goes back to, I can't be hypocritical. I can't earn a living from something that I myself don't even use or like, that's crazy. Being overwhelmed by options and choices, if there's a lot of options, like a menu with a lot of stuff, if I didn't go into it with an idea of what I already wanted, that menu would take me out. Absolutely. Difficulty with maintaining friendships. Probably. It's just me and my wife and my mom and a few handful of people. So yeah, I'd definitely say that. I think that not being understood as being autistic and being misunderstood as being difficult or, litany of these other things, I think that definitely has added to it for sure. Needing breaks during demanding tasks. Yeah, that's totally me. I am naive and overly trusting, and I've gotten taken advantage of by people multiple times because they told me what I wanted to hear and I didn't understand all the layers of stuff that were going on. Being less influenced by social norms and peer pressure. For sure. I think probably because I'm really aware of them, and this goes into not being pressured into making decisions. And I'm not that easy to influence. Difficulty with turn taking in conversations. Yeah, I guess I practice improv, so I'm fine at doing yes and, but if it's like a bunch of like non sequiturs that are illogical, that don't actually form a narrative, autistic me is going to call it out and say, well, what's going on with that? Personal questions considered inappropriate. Yeah. Giving unsolicited advice. Not that you asked for my advice, but I heard that yada yada and I'm going to give you some advice. Yeah, I'm totally guilty of that. Not automatically comforting someone. I guess it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to read the room on that one. I don't struggle with unstructured time. I'm great at keeping myself busy, but I've had a lifetime of being an only child to figure it out, and an artist. Spontaneous decisions. Nope, I'm good with that. I'm good with being spontaneous. I'm not masking, so I'm not exhausted. I definitely have an intense internal world, and no one's going to do it like I do it. So yeah, I am totally resistant to delegation. I like a phone call. I definitely like a phone call. Surprise parties or events? Yeah, fuck that. Fuck that. No way. No. I can be roasted if you could be roasted. You want to roast me? That's fine, but I'm going to roast you back. And since I'm so observant, my roasts are probably going to be pretty good. So yeah, I'm fine. I love a good joke. And I'm the first to laugh at myself, because if I can't laugh at me, man, no one's going to laugh. And I like being funny. I do. I think it's a great salve for any wound, for sure. Overly critical? Yeah, that goes with the masking. Understanding the hierarchical structure, I think it's more, I understand it, but I don't inherently respect it simply because it's there. I need to understand it, like the why, right? That goes back to the why. Social rituals, yeah. Talking about death or serious. I always am talking about serious topics inappropriately. I'm like, deep thoughts with RJ. Like one time I was hanging out with my friend Void. I'm like, so what do you think about, we just smoked this huge fucking joint. We're zooted. We're in the parking lot. We're about to go into this club called the Milk Bar where they're playing industrial stuff. And they have a full-size woman with gazoingas and milk squirting out of the appropriate place that milk would squirt out of. It was squirting, you know? So, I mean, we were in the car and I'm like, so what? And we just smoked that joint. So what do you think about life? Pretty intense, huh? And he's like, where the fuck did that come from? Yeah. Difficulty understanding motivations of others, for sure. And it's because we definitely want to believe in the best in the person, you know? We definitely want to believe in the best in the person and don't want to think that they're being dishonest. Yeah, definitely. I don't appear detached or disconnected most of the time. I mean, 69, strong preference for logical arguments. I mean, what are you going to do, an emotional argument? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Like, emotions are great, but they're not logic. Logic's got a rule. You got to be like Spock with logic because the emotions are so crazy. And the emotions are going to lie. Your emotions are going to lie for sure. Needing advance warnings for visitors at events. Oh, yeah. Let's schedule that shit. Being easily fatigued goes back to needing alone time. Memory for facts, but not social details. Maybe. Disliking unexpected visits. I mean, I think you're repeating yourself. I like a large open space. It does get me dizzy. I'm not gonna lie. You know, up here in Colorado, all the mountains and stuff, it's beautiful. I'm great at, my imagination is fantastic. I'm an artist. I'm good at speculating. I don't conform to trends. I try to do my own thing. That's why I'm not on TikTok. I also know myself, and it actually makes me want to throw up in a way, the way that the people are acting, because it's so disingenuous and so disconnected from reality that it's like watching a horror show, because that's what society is. And I'm happy to not participate in it. It's just too much for me. I'm sure I could do a thing on there and have some stuff. And I post once a month, and I don't do these things on there, you know? So, yeah. Difficulty reading group dynamics. I've gotten better. You know, I'm 54. I've practiced. I definitely need a structure and tasks, but also I've trained to be a project manager. So I've learned to fill in a lot of the gaps in my native abilities with learning. Distracted by detail. Squirrel. Yeah, totally. Strong sensitivity to textures of food. I cook all my own food because I can't handle the way that other people cook. I don't like it. I don't even go out anymore. I make all my own stuff. Disliking small talk about the weather. Yeah, I mean, you could talk about the weather if it's like part of the thing, but yeah, I don't like that. Understanding the purpose. It goes back to why. Always seen as too intense. Always. Gracefully. You know, I joke around. I'll let you go. I seem to have had you hostage for a while. I'll let you go. Sorry about that. Talked about internal consistency. Yeah, man. I don't say anything I don't mean. I'm not going to just say something to get you to go away. I only say the things I genuinely actually mean. I don't lie. I value truth amongst over everything else. Yeah, don't touch me without permission, sure. Being overwhelmed, talked about that. Needing specific tools or items to feel comfortable. Yep, I got a specific pillow. I do all my own wash. I even design my own hat and my own shirt. Specific clothing needs to fit exactly the right way. And I've even gone as far as teaching myself how to tailor my own clothes so that they fit me better and they don't make me feel uncomfortable. I'm good. I love a good joke. I've been into comedy since I can talk, and laughing is one of my favorite things. So I do understand that. I can be. I've been seen as overly formal and being rigid, but only in professional situations when I need to be. I'd much rather just be loose and carefree. Yeah. And I definitely have my personal values. Like I live by the sword and I die by the sword. And I know things that I'm going to say and that I'm not going to say. So it's really hard to argue with me, because if you say that I've said or done something that goes against my own internal compass or my own internal narrative, like I know myself. I would never say that. That's a horrible thing to say. That's absolutely disgusting. And if you think I said that, then you're reading into it, and that's not what I meant or said. You got to stop that. I've been accused, yeah, for sure. Overwhelmed by uncertainty. I've actually gotten very comfortable with uncertainty. I've had to. My life, there's been so much uncertainty in my life that if it were to overwhelm me, I would be a blethering fool in the corner, for sure. I've got great spatial awareness. I've been working with my hands. I'm an artist. I've worked in so many different physical applications of life as well as mental. I've got fantastic. We talked about quiet time, talked about overly trusting, talked about power dynamics and hierarchy, talked about that I loop. If something's really important to me, I may loop around on a topic 2, 3, 4, 5 times, not even realize that I'm looping. It's just that it's important to me, and I've gotten no verbal cue from the person I'm conversing with that I need to move on. My wife now tell me, "You're looping." I'm like, "Sorry, I'll move on." Yeah. Having a monotone voice, I'm pretty good. I do need downtime after significant events, and I will talk about echolalia. And this is something that I've definitely been battling with. And it's this insane need to repeat sounds or phrases that you hear out loud. And it comes to singing, like if the door squeaks and it goes, "Grr, grr," I'll be like, "Grr, grr." I'll make the sound of the noise of the door. If the cat cries at me, I'll cry back at the cat. It's called echolalia. And sometimes I'll laugh in a meeting and I can't control it. It's a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, these are 100 things that, are you an asshole or are you autistic? And they could be misunderstood by anybody and everybody. And, leave a comment down below if any of these things are you. And if you found this appealing and you like it, give a thumbs up. Yeah, thanks for watching. Yee-hoo! I'm a bit crazy, but I ain't cute.